Oh my gosh, it's so great. It's so great, and I can't wait for you guys to see the season finale. Oh, you're gonna be dead. It's awesome.
So I'm super excited to talk to you. I talked to you briefly at the premiere on the red carpet about Jen
Mhm.
and Brian's relationship and could they ever really trust each other? So now that we are at the end of the season, we see not so much, but maybe. What are your thoughts on their levels of trust as we arrive towards the end of season 2 of BMF?
I think as much as Jin wants to trust Brian, she just keeps, finding him concealing things, even after she's, all in, right? She's become part of his scheme, and invested even in, covering up for him. She just keeps finding all these things. This in 208, when they finally get together, physically, I think that she still has reservations. I think she's realistic in, what she knows about him and what he's capable of. um but I think that I think Jin is she's a cop, and she knows, that she can't trust him 100%.
So how does that play out into as far as their work relationship goes? Because now they have this added aspect that we don't really know what's going to happen with that or where that's going to go, but they have a working relationship and their jobs are kind of on the line. How does this impact Jen in how she goes about her day-to-day work?
I feel like, in this episode when they get together in 208, um, it it makes their partnership even that much more, complicated, and um, it brings them even closer as partners. However, I think that um it makes things, like I said, even more complicated. I think as female cops, it's hard for them to be in relationships with anyone else, in except someone who's in law enforcement, because I don't know that anyone else really understands that kind of mindset. So female cops either date other cops, or they're going to be alone. It's really a tough business for anyone, and especially for a woman in the 80s, which this takes place in the 80s, and a woman in the 80s of Asian descent. I think there's so much that complicates this character and what she does, her relationship, all of it. I mean, the writing in this is so awesome.
So on that, because Jen is such a complicated character, and we know some characters are real, some are blends of real characters, where does Jen fall on that spectrum?
She is a character that is has been created by Mike Lee, who is one of the writers on BMF. Um, and I don't believe that there were any Asian cops, especially in Drano, in this, particular task force. Um, in the research that I did, I don't know that there were any female Asian cops or even Asian cops. It In the 80s, it was so the law enforcement was so dominated by white males still, that even black cops were sort of newer and harder, just sort of coming in. But I think that this character, even though she was completely created in the minds of these writers, her backstory is so filled, and it makes it so much more fun to be able to play, because she's not, grounded by, or limited, I should say, by reality, that they can just kind of, create this person from their imaginations and fill it with so much interesting backstory.
So she is very complicated, and we learn a little bit more about where her demons lie as we go on.
Hmm.
Want to ask, what does Jen feel about Meech and BMF? Does she believe that they are the enemy that they are as presented? Or does she have some questions just from the things that she's sort of learning about Bryant through this process?
I think that her ultimate goal is to catch the bad guys. I mean, her goal in life is to find justice, right? Find justice for her sister, find justice for her community, not just the Asian community, but for Detroit, where she grew up, and the city that she loves. So I feel like, cl- her all she wants is to clean up this city and make it a better place, to be the city that she remembers growing up in, riding her bike around Chinatown and feeling safe and being able to just, be a 10-year-old kid on a bicycle. I think that that is her ultimate goal. And, part of it is catching the bad guys and cleaning up the streets of, drug dealers and guys, like BMF.
Is she invested in this unit, or is this a stepping stone for her to go someplace else?
I think that she is, she worked hard to be where she is. She's, as an Asian woman in the 80s on this police force, I think she had to work harder than anybody else. They call her a hard charger. That's a real term that they use for cops who are just like, out there and working hard to prove themselves. Um, and so, yeah, I think that that she knows that she's earned her right to be on this task force, and she is going to prove that she belongs there. But I think her ultimate goal is to just clean up the city, no matter what it takes.
Got it. So we have two more episodes left in wrapping
Oh,
up.
I can't wait for you guys to see the final episode. It's so good.
So by the end of that final episode, will fans be Team Detective Bryant or Team Detective Jen?
Oh boy. It's going to be a hard one, because there's so much heart in this final episode. I mean, your heart is going to be torn apart. I I reread episode 10, the finale, before starting season 3, just to sort of, get back into that headspace and remembering exactly what was going on just, previous to this. And it hit me just as hard as the first time I read it. Um, there's so much uh emotion, and I guess, all of this stuff can be justified, with it's all about family, right? It's in the name. And not just for BMF, but for Bryant as well. So I can't wait for you guys to see what we have in store for the finale. It will not disappoint.